I checked my watch for the sixth time as another couple laughed their way out of the little Italian restaurant. 7:30 had become 8. The candle on my table had burned lower, and the untouched second glass of water looked like a quiet reminder that my blind date wasn't coming. The hostess had already given me 2 sympathetic smiles. "It happens more often than you'd think," she whispered as she passed. I forced a grin. Good to know I'm not uniquely unlucky. Truthfully, I wanted to disappear. At 36, I'd finally let my younger sister convince me to try a blind date after years of focusing on work. "Her name's Emily," she'd said. "She's kind. You'll like her." Apparently, Emily hadn't felt the same excitement. I reached for my wallet, planning to leave before anyone pitted me further. Just then, the waitress who had been serving my table stopped beside me. She was probably in her early 30s, wearing a black apron dusted with flour, her dark hair tied into a loose ponytail. Throughout the evening she'd quietly refilled my coffee without asking if I wanted another. Now she looked strangely nervous. "Would it be all right if I sat down for just a minute?" she asked. I blinked. "You're on break?" She smiled faintly. "I'll make it quick." Curious, I nodded. She slipped into the empty chair across from me, the one that had been waiting for someone else all evening. For a second neither of us spoke. Then she took a slow breath. "Can I tell you something?" I shrugged gently. "Sure." She looked toward the restaurant entrance before lowering her voice. "The woman who was supposed to meet you, she actually came." I frowned. "What?" "I saw her." My confusion deepened. "Then why didn't she come inside?" The waitress hesitated. "She did." I stared. "She walked in about 20 minutes before your reservation. She saw you sitting here." I felt my stomach tighten. "And?" "She asked me which man was waiting for Emily." "You told her?" She nodded sadly. I pointed toward your table. "What happened?" The waitress looked genuinely uncomfortable. "She watched you for maybe 10 seconds, then smiled." A cold feeling settled in my chest. "And she said." The waitress continued carefully, "He's older than I expected." I looked down at the untouched napkin. "Then?" She laughed a little. The words came slower now. "She said she wasn't interested anymore, asked if there was a back exit, and left." Silence settled between us. Oddly, I wasn't angry. Just tired. After years of believing personality mattered more than appearances, hearing I'd been dismissed before saying a single word stung more than I wanted to admit. The waitress studied my expression. "I'm sorry." I gave a small shrug. "Not your fault." "I almost didn't tell you." "Why did you?" She smiled sadly. "Because you kept checking the door." I laughed quietly despite myself. Was it that obvious? A little. For a moment we simply listened to the soft music drifting through the restaurant. Then she surprised me again. "I hope this doesn't sound strange," she said. "I don't think she deserved your disappointment." I raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me." "No." She smiled. "But I watched something." "What?" "You thanked every employee who came to your table." I chuckled. "That's basic manners." "You remembered my name after I introduced myself." "I've worked in restaurants before." "You asked the busboy how his injured wrist was because you noticed the bandage." I hadn't even realized she'd seen that. She continued. "You didn't complain about waiting." "I figured traffic happens." "You ordered dessert." I laughed. "That proves I'm a good person?" She laughed too. "No." "What then?" "It proved you weren't going to let one bad evening ruin your kindness." Something inside me softened. No one had ever complimented me for something so ordinary. She looked embarrassed. "I know that sounds silly." "It doesn't." Another silence settled, but this one felt warmer. Finally I asked, "What's your name?" "Claire." "It's nice to officially meet you, Claire." "You too." She glanced toward the kitchen where someone called her name. "My break's almost over." I nodded. "Thank you for telling me." She stood, then paused. "I know tonight wasn't what you expected." "It definitely wasn't." She smiled. "Sometimes that's not entirely bad." Before she walked away, I asked one last question. "Can I ask you something?" She turned. "Of course. If your shift ended right now." She waited. "Would you let me buy you a cup of coffee somewhere that doesn't require you to refill it yourself?" Her eyes widened. For one terrifying second I thought I'd crossed a line. Then she laughed. "I finish at 9. I smiled for the first time that evening without forcing it. "I can wait." She pointed playfully. "Don't disappear. I've already waited an hour." She grinned. I noticed. When 9 o'clock arrived, she emerged wearing a denim jacket instead of an apron, her hair falling freely over her shoulders. She looked different. Not because of the clothes. Because now she wasn't serving tables. She was simply Claire. We walked to the coffee shop across the street, talking about everything from favorite books to childhood dreams. She told me she'd become a waitress after caring for her father through a long illness, putting her teaching career on hold. I admitted I'd spent so much time building a successful career that I'd forgotten how to build a personal life. Hours passed unnoticed. As we stood outside beneath the quiet glow of the streetlights, she smiled. "You know." "What?" "If Emily had stayed, I wouldn't have met you." She nodded. "Funny how that works." I looked back toward the restaurant where the evening had begun with disappointment and ended with unexpected hope. Sometimes the person you're waiting for never arrives. Not because your story is over, but because life quietly saves the empty chair for someone brave enough to sit down and simply say, "Can I tell you something?"